Coming up on Nebraska Stories, renowned stadiums recreated in paper. North America's only aquatic songbird. Exploring agate fossil beds national monument. And a garden where hope blooms.
I was always interested in the design of them, and it's almost like every stadium is a little challenge, a little bit of a gigantic art project, which I guess is what architecture is anyways. So that kind of drew me into the uniqueness of stadiums. So as a kid, I was always into sport. My two biggest things were sports and drawing. And eventually it morphed into like drawing stadiums, drawing fields. As I got older, I found myself looking for a hobby, and it kind of, 20 years after I stopped drawing stadiums, I kind of came back to that. It started off as, let's just see if I can design my own little stadium just for the fun of it out of cardboard. And I started finding out better ways to do it, and eventually realized paper was the cheapest and easiest way to build these stadiums, because I work at a school and I would just pull paper out of the recycling bins and use that. So I literally built them for free until I started churning it out faster and had to buy supplies. So the first three stadiums, they were just kind of made up stadiums, and then the fourth one was the first one I modeled after anything. I built Rosenblatt Stadium. I grew up down the street from Rosenblatt, and then just being in Omaha and having that attachment to that stadium is fun to kind of build that as almost a tribute to the stadium. And then the next thing I did was Memorial Stadium. And anybody, obviously growing up in Nebraska, there's emotional attachment to that. What really changed it and made this kind of a bigger thing is my buddy, because I was sending him pictures like, hey, look what I'm doing. My buddy said, hey, you should start a Twitter account, because I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy this. And I thought, I'm sure there'll be a couple dozen people that think this is cool, so why not? So I started that, and it ended up being a couple thousand people that enjoy it, and some of my videos have had hundreds of thousands of views, and it's kind of fun. It's always fun seeing people appreciate something that you spend a lot of time on and do a lot of effort and really care about and put a lot of energy into. I didn't even know if I'd keep doing it after I was done with Memorial Stadium. So it was a surprise that it was as popular as it was. I didn't really realize how many people would think this is something that's really cool, and how many people would say, hey, you made Memorial Stadium. I'm a Iowa fan. Can you make Kinnick Stadium, or so on and so forth? So seeing the reaction from Memorial Stadium, and I believe it got like 150,000 views or something like that, it definitely motivated me to want to do more projects. So right now, it's all my stadiums that I'm building are just people have ordered them. For the most part, they're usually major league stadiums. But the first process I'm doing is I get a blueprint for it. So I use that blueprint to make a map. And then I also get like side profiles of the stadium off of that. And I start putting up all the profiles like I have right now. But what I'm doing right now is going to take a half hour, whereas before it might have taken 2 or 3 days. Just because I've come up with some innovative ways to do a different process. And then from there, it's putting all the pieces on top of it. So kind of a way I've explained it, it's almost like a 3D drawing. So after I have all the profiles set up, I'll be drawing the seats, I'll be drawing the exterior, and I'll be attaching it to the profiles. And then the one thing I always look for in every project is unique little touches and little nods to reasons that people enjoy those stadiums. The single most challenging thing I've done so far is make the roof for the Astrodome. That's the first time I've made anything like that. So I had to figure out a way with flat pieces of paper that only bend in one direction. You can't bend a piece of paper more than one direction, really. I enjoyed that challenge. That's kind of, if you're picking up a hobby, part of a hobby usually is you want some sort of challenge that entertains you. So that's been one of the most challenging things I've done. And by the time I was done, it was one of the most rewarding things because I challenged myself to do something very difficult and I achieved it. I personally think the coolest one is the Kauffman Stadium that's made out of baseball cards. It turned out really well and looks really cool. And actually, that's one that I gave to my dad for Father's Day, just because as I started making it, I was like, this is too cool to give away to somebody, so I'm gonna keep it in the family. Stadiums are one of the only buildings that you can connect memories to. Like I keep telling people, like, you have your childhood home and a stadium usually, if you're a sports fan, that you can look back at and have so many memories in those places. This has become something that's been really rewarding and fulfilling. I found out through social media that there are hundreds of people that were just like me growing up that drew stadiums and drew fields, were obsessed with this stuff, and we thought it was such a niche and nobody else did this. So that's kind of been cool finding out that I was sitting there in 7th grade class not paying attention, drawing Memorial Stadium, and there was other kids all over the nation obsessed with this stuff. And it's not necessarily like I'm a millennial that just is looking for social media clout. It's more just people enjoy what I'm doing, and if somebody enjoys what you're doing, it's really inspirational, and it really inspires me to want to do it some more so that more people can enjoy it. And if it's something that brightens somebody's day for 10 seconds, that's something cool to me that I can really hang my hat on and be proud of, that I'm putting out this social media content that makes somebody smile.
Welcome to the mountains. Hail here, blue sky up there.
Steve's a character. Steve's one of those guys that I'm sure comes into a lot of people's minds. He grew up in Nebraska. He grew up out in the plains, but he came up into the mountains and into this canyon 30-some years ago and never left. I got to know him trying to figure out dippers, and Steve spent a lot of time looking up and down this canyon for nests, and he'd name every single nest, and then he'd report to me what the names of those nests were and where they were. After a while, I said, I got to meet you, and you got to show me this stuff in person. The American dipper is North America's only aquatic songbird. It's a trout with feathers, is what it is. If you find dippers in a place, then that means that the water quality is good. They make their lives in this very violent world, yet they're soft and elegant. They're really beautiful. They're sort of like the wildlife that's right under your nose that you see, but you really don't think much about. That's what I like to try to do, and just try to help people understand a little bit more about the stuff that they see, so that maybe they can care too.
So where are we stopping now?
Oh, dipper nest. This is the first dipper nest I showed Mike several years ago.
Does it have a name?
Yeah, it's got a great name. They all have names. This one's called Stairway to Heaven. I'm a rocker, you know. Come, I shall show you the stairway to heaven. Remember this one, Mikey?
I do remember it. We became very fast friends, and he and his friends down at Poudre Park and other people up in this canyon are the stewards of this river. But yeah, he's a good guy.
And this is the den. Welcome to the den. And I shall meet you out back. I bought this place in 1986. This is my 32nd year. I'm a bird watcher. I've been my whole life. I've netted and identified and aged and sexed over 10,000 birds. Banded them. That was a hobby of mine. And so I knew what dippers were, but it wasn't until I bumped into Mike that I've learned more about them. I talked to all four of you, but I was looking at the guy, Tyler. I said, yeah, I'm excited. Mike is going to come out. He's got one more picture to take. He wants to get a dipper underwater. He smiles and he goes, Steve, Michael always has one more picture to take. He'll always have one more picture to take. And I thought, yep, that's Mikey. He'll get it. It's his passion, it's his patience.
The goal for today has been my goal for 4 years, which has been to try to photograph these dippers underwater. With wildlife work, you just have to be incredibly persistent. I hate electronics. And you have to accept failing on a fairly regular basis. It's gonna drive me nuts now, guys. 2 hours. I'm gonna go right to where I was. That's exactly how it works. You gotta be patient. You gotta trust it. And then be willing to fail every day. Got a whole lot of nothing. But gotten really close, which is usually how it is. Had birds pretty close. I really want that photograph underwater, and that's really, really hard. And I've failed miserably for a long time, but I keep getting closer and closer and closer, so maybe one day. Comes the bird. Are you gonna land on that rock, dude? Well, gang, if we didn't get it there, I'm just gonna give up. The bird swam and dove right in front of that housing. All right. I really want to open this, but I really don't want to open this. Okay, I see the dipper. I see tops of legs is what I see. which is pretty funny. Sort of small in the frame though. Okay, there it's swimming, so we got it on the left side. It's sort of going out of frame. Oh man, I just missed. Got everything but it's the front of its head going out of the frame. Got bubbles around it. Okay. Well, it's not like the killer image. It's not the one that you paint. It's cool. It's a start. Can't stop yet. But it works. Everything looks good. Light looks good. Exposure's good. So we're close. Got to get this back out there.
Oh, wow. Is that cool or what?
You want to see it again?
Yeah.
Look, it just keeps flapping to stay down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You see all those bubbles coming off of that bird? Then he just catches the current and starts paddling. That's something.
And you want more.
Well, you know, you always see something else.
In the Niobrara River Valley, there is a place where even time could go to catch its breath. A place where millions of years ago an ancient ecosystem thrived, but unfortunately, it also died. Today, this landmark is one of America's most remote national parks. Created by Congress in June of 1965, Agate Fossil Beds National Monument is a convergence of natural, cultural, and American history.
It was set aside to preserve the unique paleontology, the associated geology that was found here, and then also as a venue to display and care for a very noted collection of American Indian artifacts.
The origins of the park are tied to a 19th century cowboy named James Cook. Cook came to the Panhandle as a backcountry guide when the state of Nebraska was new, and the Lakota people were being pushed to reservations in Dakota Territory.
He happens to be at the Red Cloud Agency when one of the premier paleontologists, O.C. Marsh, was there meeting with the Oglala and other Sioux tribal chiefs and elders.
In 1874, as the Black Hills Gold Rush was underway, paleontologists were combing the Great Plains, searching for fossils during what is called the Great Dinosaur Rush.
This is the same time that European Americans are finding gold in the Black Hills, and so the Indians are not particularly disposed to let Marsh and his party pass. In the midst of those discussions, James Cook was called on because it was suggested that he knew enough Lakota that he could interpret. And so he was able to prevail on Red Cloud and the other assembled Indian elders that O.C. Marsh wasn't interested in gold, that in fact he was hunting for fossils.
Cook's skillful mediation of the dispute left a lasting impression on the Oglala chief. It also gave Cook his first glimpse of the emerging science. These two things would later play important roles in his life. James Cook went on to take a job at a ranch south of Harrison, and then fell in love and married the rancher's daughter.
James and Kate were out riding, and they spied some glittering material on the ground. They thought they were just pony bones or something like that, maybe associated with an American Indian burial.
The bones the young couple discovered would turn out to be some of the first Miocene mammal fossils discovered in America. But it would also be 20 more years before the world would know about them.
In 1904, a paleontologist who had been working north of here in northern Sioux County, James Cook prevailed on him to come up here to the Bone Hills and see the fossils. And the story runs that the paleontologist raced all the way back to the ranch house, told his assistants, put the horses and the wagons in the barn, we're staying for a few days. There was a period of 20 years where various institutions from largely in the East, but Yale, Harvard, the Carnegie Museum, the American Museum, those paleontologists were keenly interested in the large, very well-preserved fossils that they could find here.
The fossils were discovered in two lone hills. One became known as Carnegie Hill, and the other, University Hill. Irwin Barbour, head of the University of Nebraska Paleontology Department, spent several summers excavating that site.
Most of the fossil excavations here by major institutions were over by 1923.
The hills contained unusual-looking animals that roamed the Great Plains 18 to 23 million years ago. the sloth-footed Chalicotherium meropus, the small antelope-like Stenomylus camel, the North American rhinoceros, called Monoceros, the Paleocastor, a beaver that dug corkscrew burrows, Daeodon, a giant hog-like scavenger, and Diphenodon, or bear dog, a carnivore with bone-crushing teeth.
This was the first place these animals were ever discovered to science. So that's what makes the fossil hills and agate fossil beds really so iconic.
Scientists believe the prehistoric mammals died during a period of climate change, a warming trend that caused a mega drought.
This was the last water hole in the area, and so it's too far away to go find food, so they just lie down and die en masse, much like we see animals doing in East Africa today during periods of drought. So you have a large death scene, and then the carnivores come in and just have a field day. Whether this happened all together or whether it happened in phases, over hundreds of years, I'm not sure we know that, but what we do know is that these animals were found in massive numbers in what truly is a large death assemblage here on these two hills.
Agate Fossil Beds National Monument is also known for its collection of 500-plus Native American artifacts. In 1874, when James Cook successfully mediated the agreement for passage between paleontologist O.C. Marsh and Red Cloud, it marked the beginning of a lifelong friendship between the Oglala chief and the cowboy rancher.
And they would get passes from the government to come off the reservation and stay around the Cook Ranch. They would conduct traditional ceremonies and dances, and I think a good time was probably had by all.
This irreplaceable assemblage of Lakota cultural history is a result of gifts given to James Cook over several years.
There's a rich legacy of the Oglala and other visiting tribal members actually presenting to Cook and his family just magnificent pieces of American Indian material culture and artifacts.
Along a quiet highway in the far corner of Nebraska, you can go off the grid at Agate Fossil Beds and step back in time to see where ancient antelope played and magnificent buffalo once roamed.
My name's Jan Wilhelm, and the reason this garden was started because of my husband. He went through a lot with his son, his family, but many years ago he told me to change my stones into diamonds, and so I decided I was going to do something. I watched him hurt badly from losing his son, and so I decided it's time because I know how it leaves a big hole in everybody's heart, and it did with mine watching him hurt so bad. So in January, a Saturday morning, I woke up and I had a person tell me, and I know it was God. He says, get up, get started with the garden today or it's never going to happen. Spring will be here in 3 months and to get started. So I called a friend of mine. We started the Humboldt Garden Club. I put a plan together and designed it. I took it to the city council, they approved it, and our garden club got together and we just started working, moving rocks, bringing in rocks, cleaning down trees and brush. And we created this garden in tribute to all cancer survivors, the ones that are fighting for their lives, and to all the loved ones that we've lost from cancer. We also have a greenhouse that we started a lot of our plants this winter. The lavender ribbon has the hope. We made the hope in bricks, and it's for all cancers. It's we're hoping for a cure on the lavenders for all cancers, and even though we have single beds here, each bed is for a certain cancer color, that's our ribbon of hope. So hopefully someday we'll have a cure.
Well, my mom actually found the garden. She and a friend went down and visited, and instantly just fell in love. And she really wanted to do something for Danielle, something to honor her. And so she talked about having a fairy made. So she had a fairy statue made in honor of Danielle.
I didn't know about it. I knew that we were gonna have the ceremony and everything for me, but I didn't know about the statue or the plaque or anything that was gonna be dedicated to me, so it was really cool. We walked around before we actually had the ceremony, and I saw it, but I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was one of the other bronze statues that was out there. My grandma said she found it, and she said it was a perfect representation of me, of always being positive, and the fairy is super, like, I don't know, she looks happy, you know, the statue does, and she looks like she's having a great time, and my grandma just said it reminded her of me.
Survivors!
We had a great time, and it's beautiful, and Jan and her husband just make you feel comfortable, and they've done such a wonderful job. And I was looking around trying to figure each flower. I consider myself an amateur gardener, but was picking out things, and I saw, look at that hen and chicks, what's that doing? And they were different. So you get to see, and those are all volunteer gardeners down there that help with all that, and it's just neat. So I will be back.
I want them to feel the peace and the love that God's given us, and remember the good times they had with their families, and just heal from that broken heart like we had today. I think they felt a lot from this garden. People who come in here get a sense of peace, like God's right here with us, and they can feel like their family members with them. It's just very peaceful and serene.
Watch more Nebraska Stories on our website, Facebook, and YouTube. Nebraska Stories is funded in part by the Margaret and Martha Thomas Foundation.